https://discord.gg/flat earth.
Welcome to 24/7 Flat Earth Discord channel. Be sure to go to VC Check and 1 to get your VC verification tags to get involved in the conversation about our Earth. Be sure to bring your verifiable Earth curvature evidence, though.
Enemy spotted.
Ferocious Ladybug.
Hey, what's up? I got a video that I've looked at by Eric Dubay that I didn't really understand. I was wondering if I could get some help to just understand.
If you don't
the thing.
understand it, it don't make sense. That's the best advice I could give you.
Yeah, well, it's got to do with star trails.
Yeah, like I said, if it didn't make sense, then it don't make sense.
So what's your question? Well, come on, Elijah. Let's indulge him a little bit. What's your question, bro? Like, so what part lost you?
I'm trying to help him with something that'll take him along in life. All right, but giving people go. What is your question? I hope you're not a bigot and you think that all flat earthers everywhere have the same answers. I hope not. But let's go. What's your question?
Well, it's just this. The idea is that the firmament has stars basically either on or around it, and it rotates like left to right or like east to west, whatever.
Mm.
And it just didn't really make sense to me how visually, based on perspective, we see the stars moving around, especially once you get like past the equator.
Well, the stars, the perspective of stars are mostly, they're not exactly the same as perspective with things terrestrially, meaning like with a car or things like that. Like they do drop in angular distance from the sky to the ground the farther you go, but that's pretty much it. It's not like you can triangulate the positions. It's not like you can see the entire body of stars at one given time from one position. We already know that. So you know what's interesting? What's interesting is if you look at the sky, you realize nothing makes sense. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. And it's, actually I was hyperbolic. I don't mean nothing. But for example, if you're standing just north of the equator, you can look in one direction and see the stars arc in one direction. You can look in, you know, southward and see them arc in the opposite direction. And you can look up and you can see them basically going straight. So you have arc left, arc right, and stars going pretty much straight over your head. I don't know anyone who can explain that on any model anywhere.
Right. Well, it's like the diagram like seemed pretty clear. I'm trying to take a screenshot of it so I can actually like show it in the chat here, because there was one particular image that confused me.
Like I said, if it confused you, it probably doesn't make sense because something about it's fallacious. Drace, you got those diverging star trails? Let me see if I can find it real quick.
I probably don't have like image privileges or whatever, but
you could send it to me. I'll post it in the chat if you like. Had you said, "Hey, my name is," how you guys doing? I might have gave you some permissions, but I think we'll take like a minute or two before we do that now.
Yeah, I'm new here. You know, I'm not expecting to get special privileges or nothing. I just got questions.
No, it's fine. You know, just get a little bit of rapport with you, and then I'll give you some perms so that you can move around the server and take a look at some of the stuff that we have in the other channels. We got a lot of information down there. It's from A to Z. It's in chronological order. A lot of questions you have Perhaps you can go on your own study and those will help, or you can ask someone directly. But in case none of us have the answer, perhaps one of those things will help you out.
All right, yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, let me know when you sent it.
I did. Yeah, you should have it.
All right. 1 second. Let's see, where is it? Message request. Okay, yeah. I gotta pay attention to these. All right, y'all. Let me just download this and I'll post it in the chat. I'm not the most tech savvy person ever, so that's what
No,
you guys get for letting
yeah,
me do it.
no, I appreciate it.
All right, here. This is what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm a check, bro. Don't worry about it.
All right. My apologies. My apologies.
Yeah, but yeah, that diagram there is basically what I'm looking at, because I haven't spoken to any flat earthers who don't subscribe to a dome slash firmament. That seems to be like a predominant thing. But based on,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to speak on anyone else's behalf, right?
Yeah. A lot of people believe in the dome. You know where that idea comes from?
From my understanding, it's some biblical stuff, but they don't exactly explain it like perfectly in the Bible. So some people probably interpret it a different way.
Well, we kind of go with science and science measurements and observation. Um, so if we were to talk about a firmament or container of some kind, it would only be because that gas pressure requires containment. PV equals nRT, the V being the volume portion of that equation.
Yeah, I see. Drake or Drace. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Is saying some stuff.
Yeah, but to get back to your point, see, yeah, they've drawn it like an actual literal dome. One thing that I would say, I don't know if everybody's on board with is this is just how the sky looks. Like if you were to take a large protractor, okay, and you were to assign the stars with the degrees on that protractor, it would just be the angular distance from the horizon to your 90, and then probably the other way all the way up to 180 degrees around you. Um, but that's not a literal dome.
Right, right. It's just the stars appear to be at like a fixed point in the sky, so that's why I'm curious, because if it is, you know, when I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, if I look southerly towards where Antarctica is supposed to be, what I should be seeing is stars going left to right. The number 2 there on the image, like I can see if my perspective's limited due to distance, like my perspective's there, I can get that.
Hmm.
And number 1, it's like I would expect it to be like curved instead of straight, but I can still, I can accept that maybe there's some perspective causing distortion. But when I look behind it, where it's supposed to be number 3, every time I look southerly from towards the horizon southerly, uh, I get a clockwise like rotation around where the Southern Cross is supposed to be, which
Okay.
isn't really what I expected to see if a diagram like this was like accurate. And I accept that it's not like physically there, but it's supposed to represent the sky, right? So I
Well,
found
it's
it to be
a
contradictive.
well, it's I
No,
mean, because this
I
isn't a
looked at it.
representation of what the
I,
sky is. That's why.
I look closer at this graphic. This is not what any of us claim, though.
Yeah, no. This was sent to me by a friend, who was like, I asked him about star trails. He said, I don't really know about that. I'm going to do some research. He sent me this, and I looked over it. It was an 18-minute video. I watched the whole thing like 3 times. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, this graphic is just imagining if the stars were on this trajectory, but it does not say anything about your perspective on the or in the dome, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever this idea is. We don't sell ideas here, so we don't make claims about the nature of reality beyond what we can test and verify for ourselves.
Right. Regardless, so my prior knowledge with this is like there's like 2 star maps that I know of that are northern and southern star maps, and they shift around the equator. That's been a huge like hindrance block for me to understand why we're not on a ball, because every time I try to think about it on a flat plane, the way the stars move don't really seem to coincide with any flat terrain that I know of, that I've experienced myself or that I've researched. So I'm
Do
trying
you
to just get
do
that,
you know
you know?
what do you know what an elevation angle is?
Uh, I mean, I hear that phrase a lot, but if you could explain it to me in a way that makes sense, that would be great.
All right, Google it and look at the images in the meantime. Um, so an elevation angle is basically a star's angular elevation above the Earth.
Yeah, I see.
So, but you don't have an angular elevation above the Earth from your vantage point if the Earth isn't a plane to reference. That would then make
Right.
that statement a misnomer.
Right, but it's like
Is it right or is it wrong?
I
Because
think that it's
I have a follow up.
so based on what I've been able to find out,
Just now
depending
with the Google search.
well, of course it makes sense with like the angular the elevation angle. Obviously, you know, that's with line of sight and horizontal planes. That's how we
Yeah. So
calculate horizontal distance, right?
you
Yeah.
you mind if I follow up with that then?
Yeah, of course, man. Go ahead.
So that's how the map of the stars that's how we do it. Elevation angles. So the whether or not it makes sense to you how it wouldn't work on a globe, the bottom line is we got all this information from elevation angles which would require the surface of the earth to allow for that, which would mean if you're going to get 90-degree positions anywhere, then you would have to be working with a flat plane.
Right. Well, I can understand that logic. The only part where that falls
You
apart
think
for
it's
me
logic? You
is
know what an elevation angle is, just an angular measurement. It's not logic, to be fair.
yeah. Well, what you're saying is true. Like I accept
Yeah.
that. The only, you know, I just want to account for all the variables, because there are stars that are visible when you're on certain parts of the planet, but you go to another country
Hmm.
and you change hemispheres, suddenly those stars aren't available. And if there's just like the angular like size thing, or like angular like angle of elevation, right?
Well, we know
If there's
that
if there's only that, like we should be able to get like every star, because each star
No,
is in a set point in the sky, dude.
no,
no. The
I don't
problem
know
is
how that makes. I
the pro-
don't,
just a second. I want to just the problem is just like this hallway. You cannot see all of the ceiling, and so as you travel further, you can see more of the ceiling. As the ceiling rotates, then new parts of the ceiling become visible to new areas, but it's still just the same ceiling.
Right.
yeah.
But we can but the way that the ceiling rotates is different based on where you are on the
So
planet.
It's just an
so
apparent rotation. You don't know what's actually happening there.
yeah,
No, but you
that's the
no, but you
thing.
no, but
That's
no, but you
real quick. So we gotta go back to what you said. Now we know that the equator, which isn't a real line, right? The equator is just the minimum angle distance that you can see the North Star. Now that's an elevation angle like we just discussed.
hmm
So at the equator, that is where the minimum angular distance is. That's where the star is at zero angle, which means beyond there, anywhere in the earth beyond that distance, beyond the equator, and sometimes you can see it just to be fair, but um beyond that distance you can't see the North Star.
Yeah.
So we already know that if you go far enough, there are stars that you can't see. What doesn't make sense about that? It sounds like you're trying to make a positive claim about there being southern and northern hemispheres without making the claim directly.
I'm just trying to understand how it works because when I look at the globe model, right, it's a thing of if I'm in the northern hemisphere and I look at the sky, I can see what's being shown with the rotation of the stars around Polaris. That makes sense, right?
No,
Then
because you beg the question. So when you say does it make sense? Um, well, if we're talking about five senses, no. But if we're talking about logic, also no, because you're begging the question of a northern and southern
question.
hemisphere. So we're already on a sphere. Just so, I mean, I
I'm just
just
trying to. Well, I'm not begging the question. Well, the
well,
thing
it
here,
is begging the question because you're saying
what I'm
they
trying
look
to.
different in the southern and northern hemisphere. Now that does beg the question because that automatically puts you on a sphere with two hemispheres.
What I'm trying to understand is how I can actually explain these star trails on a flat plane, and I haven't been able to make that work.
The same
Now
way
I'm
that you
trying.
do. That's why we have a celestial sphere model. That's because that's actually a flat Earth model, by the
Could
way.
you
But
show
you
that to
could.
me?
What do you mean? It's like
Or
you've never seen the celestial sphere? Now they claim that it's due to us being on a sphere, but that's the one part that can't be validated. But the celestial sphere model uses, you know what? Matter of fact, I'm going to read you something right now. I'm going to drop it in the chat as well. So you know, it's from Royal Air Force College. A lot of the guys have heard me read this before. Um,
mhm.
okay. Uh, Earthly is what the portion of this article is titled. Andrew Hill, in parentheses, Darwin rules. Okay. July 12th, page 127 says, quote, even in The Spectator, we rarely find serious assertions that the sun goes around the earth, end quotes. One can, of course, believe anything one likes as long as the consequences of that belief are trivial. But when survival depends on belief, then it matters that belief corresponds to manifest reality. We therefore teach navigators that the stars are fixed to the celestial sphere, which is centered on a fixed earth and around which it rotates in accordance with laws clearly deducible from common sense observation. Is those words again, right? The sun and the
Mhm.
moon move across the inner surface of this sphere and hence perforce go around the earth. This means that students of navigation must unlearn a lot of the confused, you sound a little confused, dogma they learned in school. Most of them find this remarkably easy because dogma is as may be, but the real world is as we perceive it to be. If Andrew Hill will look in the Journal of Navigation, he will find that the Earth centered universe is alive and well, whatever his readings of The Spectator may suggest. Darcy Reddyhoff, Royal Air Force College. Now, if you go back to the portion where they say, the real world is as we perceive it to be. What they're saying is it looks like we're in a fixed position, and the celestial or the equatorial plane is a plane. It's a plane. It's just a plane. That they say, okay, we're going to take these measurements from hell, the center of Earth, on the
Hmm.
equatorial plane, in which we can then apply this celestial sphere model. No, you're just standing on a plane and you're applying what the sky looks like based on the degrees and the positions that the stars are in, or the moon, or the sun, whatever you're going to use to navigate. So when you say make it make sense, well, when you look at the hemisphere, aka the star map, that is just the, what is it called again? Uh Celestial sphere, which is on a flat earth anyway. So what's so hard about that?
Well, the stars you have to use are different when you're in the northern and southern hemispheres. That's why.
Yeah, they use two planes.
Yeah, but why are there two planes when there's only one sky?
I mean, it's the same plane, they just use a different reference point, which is somewhere in the south instead of in the north. There's the north side, there's the south side. If you're using an astrolabe, you just flip it around.
But they rotate differently.
So
If they're all part of the same sky and the sky rotates the same way, they should be rotating the same way, but they don't.
no, no, look at fam, look at this very real image. Like, yeah, I don't think you're, I think you're trying not to understand what we're putting down here. We're not trying to give you new knowledge. We're saying what you think you know is not what you know. How could anyone explain this? You see how somebody's from standing in one point of the earth and there seems to be two different rotations, even though we all know that from any one perspective, the stars go from east to west no matter where you are on the earth. That's not what this looks like though. So if someone were to just look at the sky and go, well, it looks different, it is what it is. What's that got to do with the shape of the earth?
Well, if this image was taken somewhere on the equator, I don't know where this picture is taken from, but I'm
Hmm.
assuming that the camera's pointed either east or west. Uh,
Look at what Drace just posted. I mean, that's from one singular point, and it's of the same sky. If the Earth were rotating, that would never. That's not possible. We got to keep it real, right? We are we keeping it real? You keeping it real with me?
of course I am. I'm
All
here to
right. So
ask
when
questions.
you look at
I'm looking
when you
for
look
answers,
at,
man.
I'm asking questions too. That's why I'm asking you now. Um, 11 minutes past the hour where Drace just posted that image. If
Yeah,
the
I see it. Yeah.
if the Earth were rotating and that was why we saw the star trails, then what Drace posted would make absolutely no sense. Are you with me on that or no?
Y- Uh, say that question one more time. If the Earth was round, that wouldn't make sense. What they we said. Sorry, I'm just
No,
trying
that's
to.
that's okay. I'll say it again. The reason that we have star trails, according to everyone who believes in a globe, that's why they're different in the south and yada yada yada, is
Yes.
because of the spin of the Earth. That's why
Yeah.
the stars move. So
Yeah.
if
That is that claim. Yeah.
that was the case, then the image that Drace posted would make absolutely no sense.
I don't think so.
Can you
It's
justify it? And to help me make it make sense. If the Earth is rotating, how do you get an image like this?
okay. First and foremost, I don't know if there's a panoramic view on the camera that was used. I don't know where and when this picture was taken.
What if there was a panoramic view? What difference would it make?
Well, it would widen your
Yeah,
field of vision, right? If you're
yeah.
looking like if this is a if it's a 180 degree, right? That's half of a circle. You see half the sky.
Hmm.
If it's more than that, you're going to see more than half the sky, and this is
Well, how do you
long
see more
exposure,
than
probably,
how do
right?
you see
So
more than 180 degrees from horizon to horizon though? That's not possible.
No, but it is possible if you have a panoramic camera that is set to take an image that goes beyond the human scope of vision.
What do you mean beyond the humans? You mean like left to right versus, uh, horizon, then arcing up above you and then back down?
What I'm saying is this globe model, right?
No, if
Uh,
no, no, no. That's too, because
Okay,
I'm trying to get a. There's only two orientations you can move the camera: left to right,
right, right,
and
yeah.
then, or you can arc it. Right? You can arc it, or you can move it left to right. The thing is, if you were moving it from left to right, then you wouldn't get the middle image.
When you're standing on the Earth and you look north, you see stars going around Polaris. If you stand on the Earth and you look south, you see stars going around the Southern Cross area. So, if you're looking directly east or west to the horizon, and you take a panoramic camera view that goes beyond 180 degrees, and you take a picture long exposure to get the star trails, you get this kind of image.
Can you explain that to me, Drace? Help me understand.
Yeah, what I think his problem is basically that it's
Her. It's a
perspective. The
her.
stars are not going in
It doesn't matter.
different
It doesn't matter.
directions. They're not moving differently. It's kind of like when you see a car coming from a city and you're standing by the side of the road, and the car comes from your right and passes you by. But then you go to the other side of this street and you wait, and all of a sudden another car comes, but he doesn't come from your right because he's coming from the city. He comes from your left. You turned around. That's why it appears to be going in a different direction.
That is correct. And that's actually the point that I'm trying to make. Depending on where you're standing, what you see in the night sky changes. And
Yeah, it's called perspective.
yeah, it's called perspective, correct, yeah. What I'm saying is, it doesn't make sense to me how it just don't make sense to me. And yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's it.
the stars move above your head. You don't need to know the exact mechanics of how all that works to measure the ground and know that the globe isn't true.
All right, well, thanks for answering my question. I appreciate the indulgence. It was fascinating.
Yeah, thank you for coming by. You're always
Yep,
welcome.
yep,
Do you want
thanks.
that
Yeah.
role? So in case you come back,
I mean, you can put me as a Glober. Yeah, that's fine. You were very nice to me, Elijah. I appreciate that.
I try. I try.
Good evening, everyone.
Verified.
Is it evening for you already? Man.
Yeah, it is. And I can see the full moon already. I don't know where you guys are, but I will guess it would be possible at the same time.
I'm in Vegas.
I mean,
No, my bad. Sorry, I'm laughing off mute. AJ is like, how come she gets a glow roll on her first talk, and I don't got mine? And then all I see is the little emoji laughing dude. And that's the way the cookie crumbles, AJ. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Yeah, and what Dre said, yeah. You sound like a super troll. At least dang, I forgot their name already.
Ferocious
At least
Ladybug.
Ferocious Ladybug. At
Yeah.
least she actually tried. She just seemed genuine. Like she just like what she was asking was what she was asking. And that was just what it was. Now, okay, so Ferocious Ladybug, are you leaving or
I'm
you
probably gonna hop out in a second, but I'll stick around for a couple minutes more. That's no problem.
okay? You want to know something that doesn't make sense to me?
Sure, shoot your shot.
By the way, what I'm about to tell you is like the linchpin for the entire mathematical extrapolation of the heliocentric belief system. So the horizon is supposed to be a tangent to a tangent point. So you have a line of sight to the maximum distance that you can see the ground because beyond that it's curving away from you. That is what the
Yeah,
horizon is claimed to be, right?
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Now, okay, since you already understand that, I don't have to go and get the video that shows you that because usually other globe earthers will say, I don't believe that the horizon is Earth curve or something because the Earth is too big or I don't know. Okay. Do you already understand the formula for the horizon? Have you ever looked that up?
I mean, if you're talking about like 8 inches per mile squared, I've heard
No.
of that. I've heard there was another thing. I'm not a mathematician though, but there's a longer like equation type curve thing. But
Yeah, not
uh,
that. Um,
all right, then
even
it's new
though
to
they're
me.
like, yeah, it's 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet will give you the distance to the horizon. Is that something you would, well, I mean, you're just hearing it for the first time. But you know what? Okay, Google distance to horizon formula.
Sure, I can do that.
So you see what it's showing there? You see
I
the
get up.
diagram?
I get University of Washington. How far away is the horizon? And then there's an equation
Do you
that
see any images with it or?
not images,
All
but it
right,
says
that's a PDF. I don't, you could download it, or if you don't want to download it, just
right.
hit images.
Yeah, it was yeah. If our eye is 5 feet above sea level, then the horizon is about a distance of this many miles away. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you find any reason to disagree with that being just the accepted verbiage and truth on a globe?
I mean, probably. Yeah. Height definitely allows you to see farther. Uh, and as
Right.
far
That's
as I
accounted
can
for.
tell, yeah. And as far as
1.2
I can
times
tell,
the square root of the observer's height. So
yeah,
regardless of what height you are, you would plug in the same formula.
yeah.
Yeah. So at one height, like for instance, 1 foot above sea level would the horizon would be 1.2 miles away from you, is what the
Hmm.
claim is.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so here's the thing. That claim is not true. There's no way to validate that claim.
How come?
Well, not that no, that claim has been falsified, I should say. Well, because if you go to a let me send you a video. Well, maybe a video is too much. I don't know how long you're gonna stay or be in here. Let's go with CFI investigators. Um, because for me this is the most damaging. How far?
Yeah.
Let's
I
see.
mean, you can send me a video and I'll watch it. I might not have time tonight, but I'll probably watch it in my free time. If I come around, I'll tell you what I think of it. That's a
Yeah,
gold
so
stamp promise.
this video right here around 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Uh or let's just to be safe, just say 4:34. Um, and just write that time stamp in. This
Hmm.
guy, as a matter of fact, right in the thumbnail, he's explaining that they're gonna send a boat out with stripes, and the stripes are going to begin to disappear as the boat descends beyond the horizon. So he basically says the camera height is 1 foot above this lake, and
Mm,
he says the horizon is expected to be at 1.2 miles. To quote him specifically, it's
mm.
1.22. So I know he's looking at the same formula we're looking at. Um, and at the end of the video, the flags disappear. Some of them, obviously, from the bottom of the boat. And then, he says, look, see, that's the thing with flat earthers. They always deny evidence. What's funny is when you look at it and based on what is this? How could anybody be calling on this? Anyway, um, so the interesting thing about this is the horizon was never in front of the boat. The horizon was supposed to be at 1.2 miles. The boat was 3 miles away, and the horizon was behind the boat. Therefore, they couldn't have used the radius to deduce the distance to the horizon. If it was a further distance, then it would have to be a bigger radius, uh, which would pretty much ruin orbital mechanics. We could just stop there because
Right.
obviously they supposedly have satellites orbiting the Earth, the ISS orbiting the Earth. They had to go around the Earth like 15 times to reach escape velocity to go to the moon. They had to get the distance to the moon, which they would have needed the radius of the Earth for that as well. The size of the moon, which they would have needed the radius of the Earth as well. And so, just the fact that the horizon is not geometric, which would be a consequence of a globe the size that they claim, means it's not a globe.
Right. Well, the great thing about this video, because I skimmed over, like they don't actually show like the moment, like they don't linger on it. They just cut to people talking, which is like a real pain in the ass because you'd like to just see the whole thing play out. Uh, so that's unfortunate. But
What are you
I can
saying
see.
is missing?
Well, it's like they show the first stripe going just partially obstructed below water, and then they cut away. Like they don't show the rest of it, which
Well,
I find to be a bit of a pain.
he's speaking on it now. This is CFI investigators, and they are on Nat Geo's network. So you have CFI investigators, which people would expect to be telling the truth because they debunk things and they clarify things, and that's their job. And then there's Nat Geo, and Nat Geo has editors, and they have the money to be correct about these things. So they're there to disprove flat earthers by showing the geometric horizon. So they explain that the stripes begin to disappear when the boat is just at 1.2 miles. Then they cut away, they come back, and then they're like, okay, now the boat is at 3 miles. And he says, look, the stripes disappeared due to the horizon that I'm pretty sure he can tell with his own eyeballs is not in front of the boat, which is the only thing I'm trying to point out to you. I mean, that's got to kind of be the biggest faux pas in history, right?
I mean,
To say that it's the horizon is behind the boat. I mean, to say that the horizon is in front of the boat blocking the stripes when you, me, and we can all see that the horizon is not in front of the boat is a major no-no, right?
well, water is supposed to be level, right? It looks like it's sinking.
Yeah, but that's a complete red herring, isn't it? That's a digression from the main premise.
I see what you're saying, but
Well,
I'm
all you got to do is say, "Yeah, that's crazy as hell." Like, I mean, anybody in any conversation when somebody makes a mistake, people typically like are quick to jump on that like, yeah, you dumb as hell, bro, how you how you made that, like, but in this in not just you, but a lot of people can't just admit when people make mistakes, probably because I told you it's the linchpin of the globe, so it's not something that you're ready to accept. I get that, but it's a mistake.
No,
When I say a mistake, it's a mistake on his part to literally be saying that the horizon is blocking the stripes when it's not. That's just either an outright mistake or an outright lie. That's just one of the two choices that is out there. Unless you can tell me a third choice. It's either it was a lie on his part or he was mistaken.
I mean, he could be mistaken, but like the the red stripe you can see compared to the above one, I don't know. It looks strange. I'd
Yeah,
rather
because
see
things
this thing. I'd rather see it over a longer distance with a larger object because then any differentials would be a lot easier to make out.
Well, things disappear bottom up over a flat surface. We have videos of that as well, so that's not really confusing for any of us, only because we've actually seen it demonstrated. So there's no reason to think that something over a horizontal surface wouldn't appear to disappear from the bottom up. Again, because we've already um, observed that. We've done it with RC boats. Then there's this Nat Geo claim. Then there's like quarters over a surface. I'm sure you've seen that, but you probably argue that it's below the eye level of the or the mid level of the camera because that's the main objection we get with that. So I didn't bother to mention it. But the bottom line
Mm.
is none of that has to do with the fact that the geometric horizon was supposed to be in front of the boat and it's not. And that's the one thing I don't hear you responding to.
Right. I don't know how to explain that because what I'm saying here is that there is like that blue line in front of the boat, right? That's what you're referring to, right? Is that like the
No, the
horizon
blue
is?
line behind the boat being the
Yeah,
horizon.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it looks,
Stupid.
yeah, like further away. It's above the boat,
Right.
so
It
it looks
looks like
strange.
it's not in front of the boat. That's what it looks like. It looks like it's not where the guy is saying it is.
Right.
Like there's kind of no way around it.
The horizon, and this is just me speaking, right?
Hmm.
Based on where the blue line starts, right? That's the blue line. Where the blue line starts is where the horizon is, right? It
Where the
looks
sky
like it's
appears to meet
ahead.
the ground,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's ahead of the boat, right?
Behind the boat.
And
Behind.
yeah, behind the boat, like we're standing and we're looking at the boat, and behind it is further horizon ahead, right? But then for some reason, the bottom of the flag appears to be sinking
Well,
slightly.
it's not due to the horizon being in front of it, right? Which is the premise.
Well, I thought,
This is what I mean by a red herring, which is remember we were talking about logic, right? So
yeah,
a red herring is a logical fallacy. So
yeah,
it is it typically happens when there's a diversion from the main point
mm,
instead of addressing the point itself by saying, yeah, I mean, because we looked at the math. You already understand that there's a geometrically speaking, there's a tangent to the tangent point. That point is supposed to be the maximum distance that you see the horizon. And this isn't that. These are all of the things that we discussed within this conversation of maybe 10, 15 minutes. And even though we've discussed all these things, the one thing you're not speaking about is how the horizon is supposed to be in front of the boat and it's just not there.
yeah. I don't have a good explanation for that.
That's fine. I wouldn't. I don't want you to have an explanation. I did this so that I can expose new information to you, because
Yeah,
usually
no, but
when people say that the horizon, when flat earthers say we see too far, and then people like I forget the guy's name. There's a lot of TikTokers and a lot of globe earthers that'll say, "Silly man, all you got to do." Oh, that's his name, Joe Rogan or Toe Rogan. Um,
Who the fuck
he
is that
he
guy? Who the fuck is that?
he chastises flat earthers by saying all you have to do is wait a little while, and then you'll see the boat go behind the horizon. But that's not the claim, is it? The claim is that the horizon is at a geometric distance that we can all validate using the formula. And I just showed you that you can't validate that. And I guarantee you, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to validate it. At best, you're going to have to find an ad hoc reason as to why that is, which doesn't really satisfy the claim, which for some people, we like direct evidence. So,
Yeah, no, but hey, man, I appreciate being exposed to new information. It's the thing is, there are things you know and there are things you don't know. And if you don't know something, it's because you haven't been told or because you don't believe it. And I can appreciate this. I'm going to need to think about why this is happening, right?
yeah, for sure. You might
And
want to go. You might want to go to a beach, and if you can, some people are landlocked. If you have a lake near you or a beach near you, and a ship tracker, or you know how far away a buoy is, or something like that, because you're gonna need something to reference it off of. So you're gonna need the horizon, and you're gonna need to know the distance of something else to figure out if you can validate the claim that the horizon is 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Because once you see it
Mhm.
yourself, it's kind of hard to try to explain and justify it, because I would never justify, like, look, my house, let's say my house is a mile away and I can see it, binoculars, right? And I know that behind my house there's a library. Imagine I come
Mhm.
to, into town one day, and I'm looking into the distance, and I see the library and I see my house behind the library when I know it's supposed to be in front of it. In
Mhm.
nobody's world does that make sense.
Right. I hear what you're saying. Uh, One thing that I want to add out is just people come in with bad faith against flat Earth people. You know, it's like they come in with like a mission or just to like laugh. Like I'm just asking questions, and
Yeah.
there are certain things I want to know why. I don't know if you want to call it a belief, if that's derogatory or whatever,
Hell
but
no!
just it's like we're living in a flat plane. This is what I see. I want to know why people think that.
But because I definitely just debunked the geometry of the globe. That would be reason number one for me.
Yeah, well, I've looked at that video. Like I can't explain that. I
Well,
have,
we
however,
also
seen.
have something called the Black Swan. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know Karl Popper.
Well,
Um,
I've seen mountains disappear and sink like below the horizon line. I have seen that. I
but
don't
that
know how
would
to
be
fucking
begging the
explain that,
question,
but
right?
yeah.
If you were, if only if you were to devise an argument. I mean, because remember, you have nothing to reference. So if you're using the horizon as the reference, and you're saying things are getting lower behind the horizon because of Earth curve, that would be begging the question. The argument I just laid out to you has no begging the question in it whatsoever. See how interesting that is?
All right, I see what you mean now. I see what the objection is. Okay,
Yeah, begging the question and
I didn't
affirming the
understand what
consequent are
you.
like,
Yeah, I didn't understand what you were meaning with that earlier. I get it now. Um,
hmm.
it's
So I would say to you that there's literally not one globe Earth claim that doesn't include either a reification fallacy, a begging the question fallacy, or an affirming the consequent fallacy, if not more than one or all of those. That like it,
mm,
that's a big problem for me. I don't know why it
right,
wouldn't be a big problem for anyone else, but that's a problem for me. Because when I prove
right.
things, I don't need to use fallacious reasoning to do it.
Right. Well, to quote what you said, the first thing you said to me, if it don't make sense, it don't make sense. Probably don't make sense, right? That
Yeah,
was the
pretty
first thing
much.
you said to me.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
what you just said, I could totally understand how like you'd find that to be an obstacle. Like you'd be like, heliocentrism doesn't make sense because of this. I get that. I don't have that issue, but I totally understand why that's something that you would have an issue with. and I don't have any good answers for you. And I'm never gonna tell a plumber how to do my piping because duty water is just gonna go everywhere, right? I'm not a fucking plumber.
Yeah,
Excuse
that's
my
why
language, but
we love science in here. And we also love history in here, not to keep on dragging you farther down the rabbit hole, but heliocentrism is only 500 years old. And it was proposed by priests. Um, so that's something that's disheartening for, atheists and agnostics. They're like, whoa, hold up, priests of what? Christianity? Hell no, I think not, right? A lot of people have that sort of feeling, especially those that are like scientifically, quote unquote, inclined. And then you have the idea of the different galaxies and the expanding universe. That's only 100 years old, proposed by Edwin Hubble. And around the time that he was proposing those things, he admits that there's no justification for why his forefathers 500 years ago said that we are in rotation around the sun. So we kind of get our knowledge not from flat earthers, but from learning what has been said, and then just using just the most basic logic and reasoning. I could see if they had actual proof, but when you hear these scientists and these PhDs and these philosophers of all different types, they basically are all saying the same thing, that there is no direct evidence, but this is how we logically deduce things.
yeah,
And then when I look at the logic behind why they deduce things, and that logic includes fallacious logic, that's a big problem.
yeah, and I totally get that. And you are totally right. Like historical perspectives are very useful. They are very useful. Not just because you get to know, what happened, but you also get into like the mindset of people at the time and what's maybe been lost over time and what's like been replacing it. And it's not always good, right? Uh, One thing, there's been people like there are some people in chat who say like I don't seem genuine.
Please
That's
don't
Oh,
mind them.
I
no
mean,
one was saying that. And
Please
we're
don't
talking
mind
about
them.
us. We're
Like
talking about
no,
there's a few members in here that ban my friend that I just have to run behind and go, don't you do that? Like, so
yeah,
I
uh,
have issues with them as well.
yeah,
It's a community. It's not like a place where we all where we all agree and we're of one hive
No, it's a
yeah,
mind.
yeah,
misunderstanding.
People are gonna say stuff.
right,
not you,
It's a
Lily. It was someone
misunderstanding.
else.
No, yeah,
yeah,
they were
yeah.
talking about
Just
someone else.
okay. Well, regardless, I think that anyone who has honesty and truth as their highest virtue and who can admit when they're wrong and who goes forth just with that mindset, it doesn't really matter too much to me what they like actually believe. I just want them to be good people, right? It's and I have to
Yeah.
believe that someone with intellectual integrity can go into an arena and say, Look, this is what I think. This is what doesn't make sense to me. This is what does make sense to me, and I just want to speak that." And you're going in to try and develop yourself, I have to hope that at some point that person reaches whatever the highest form of truth is and is able to share that with the world in a way that makes things better.
Mm,
Because
did you-
when if you treat people as hostiles, or if you see someone as a hostile, you're going to treat them like a hostile. If you see someone as a friend, you're going to treat them like a friend. And I don't want to make enemies here, because anyone here who is like, I want to know what the truth is and I want to share it with people. That's a good attitude,
Yeah,
all right?
for
And
sure,
then
for sure.
the only thing that can fucking sorry for my language, but the only thing that can ruin that, like the most effective lie is a half truth, cuz nothing allows a person to put poison in your system than by mixing it into a drink that tastes good to you, right? People slip in lies when they can't afford to, and it's a very toxic thing. So
Yeah.
dishonesty is like the worst thing imaginable. Um,
Yes.
so uh,
Agreed.
yeah, so I just appreciate your time, and I appreciate that you took time to answer my questions. I wasn't satisfied with the whole Star Trail thing. I haven't changed my mind about that, I think that the way
That's fair.
you, in particular, Elijah, went about this, I think you've got a good attitude, and I don't think that you're going to make things worse for anyone. And that's good. I
Thank
want to
you.
say that to you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you coming here. I had a good conversation with you as well. Thank you for those in the chat who stood by, posted, and help with the citations and things like that. You guys are all amazing as well. Except for the ones that said she wasn't genuine. We didn't need that, but other than that, it was a good
I'm
conversation.
disagreeable.
I'm sorry, I
But
didn't hear that. What was something about being disagreeable? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
but the whole half
I was
truth thing.
saying I'm just disagreeable. That's all. Y'all can continue with the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, bro.
Yeah, the whole half truths thing, like, yeah, that's the thing about academia. With I would say it's worse than half truths, but at best, like, what people take away from the things that they say are half truths. Um, uh, what's a good example? Well, like I said, people think that they'll say, "Oh, we already have so much scientific evidence for the heliocentric model," and yada yada yada. First of all, a scientific model uh is something that after you have an observed natural phenomena, then you have a proposed hypothesis, then you test the hypothesis, then you validate the hypothesis, and then you
Hmm.
have other subsequent hypotheses that are also valid. You now have a scientific theory. There's no such thing for the heliocentric. I don't even know model. I don't know how they define model when they say uh the model of heliocentrism.
Right.
You know,
Well,
so just bringing the point to the whole half truth thing, like I was talking about Edwin Hubble, then you have people like Einstein who also said that there's no actual experiment, terrestrial or otherwise, meaning otherwise as in just looking. There's no way
mhm,
from the earth you can tell whether the earth is moving or whether we're moving. Hence relativity, right? Because everything is
mhm.
relative. You don't really know which is which. Um but school definitely teaches it. TV programming teaches it. The news teaches it. Everyone who's in authority teaches it as if it is pure fact. And that is, if I'm being charitable, a half truth that I cannot stand.
Right. Well, I understand that perspective, and I do mirror the sentiment. And scientific theory is yeah, you start with a hypothesis, you test it. If you get repeatable empirical results, you can maybe call it a theory, right? If you got enough evidence to back it up. Now, I didn't come here to change any minds. Obviously, I came here with a question about star trails that didn't make sense to me. Uh, but it's I'm not here to force anyone to believe anything, and I came here just because I wanted to ask some questions, and you gave me answers, and whether or not I'm satisfied with them, you kept it civil, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah, no
And
problem. No worries.
yeah, God bless.
God bless.
Yeah, that's it for me. I'm gonna hop off.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Ladybug.
It should happen like that every time.
What is your profession?
See, old friend, I brought more soldiers than you did.